Welcome to the Korea Pro podcast. I'm your host, Jeongmin Kim, the editorial director of Korea Pro.
And I'm John Lee, the editor of Korea Pro.
Join us for a weekly 15-minute conversation as we dive into the most pressing stories shaping South Korea and dissect the most complicated ones for you.
From politics to culture, technology to society, we've got you covered. So stay ahead of the curve and never be sidelined again.
So get ready for a fresh perspective on South Korea's news. This is the Korea Pro podcast. Welcome back, listeners. This is Jeongmin, the host of Korea Pro podcast, and today we are joined by Joon Ha Park, our junior correspondent for Korea Pro as well. John is on vacation, and we are recording at just around 3 p.m. on Thursday, October 24th. And John, you missed a very big news of the week, which was South Korea finally being a little bit more clear about potentially providing weapons for Ukraine. But Joon Ha, before we go into that this is sort of a North Korea territory a little bit. But what kicked off this potential response when it comes to potential provision of lethal weapons provision for Ukraine? That was something to do with the deployment of North Korean troops.
That's correct, yeah. So the NIS, they announced last Friday, actually, that North Korean troops were being sent to the Russian border. And they were 1,500 North Korean troops, if I'm not mistaken. And that's what kind of set off this whole Seoul response and hinting at their considerations of weapons supply to Ukraine. They were talking about step-by-step. What does that mean?
Step-by-step. I'll go into that. But before we move on to that, I think NIS yesterday updated that number to 3,000.
That's correct, yeah.
And also this comes after a few months after the National Security Advisor at the time, right after North Korea signed the treaty, a mutual defense treaty with Russia, saying that if Russia crosses the red line, Seoul will consider lethal weapons provision for Ukraine. But that was as clear as it gets at the time. But they never followed up with whether or not Russia crossed that line. And it seems it's pretty clear this means that North Korea troops being deployed for supporting Russia means that it's crossing the red line.
They haven't explicitly stated what the red line is.
Right. The MND was asked this question on Tuesday or Monday, and they were like, oh, we cannot say clearly whether this crosses the line or not,
sure,
etc. But it seems they are having difficulty answering that question directly and clearly because this is, to be honest, and to be fair, this is something that South Korea has to utilize very carefully.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because it's a strategic tool. But anyways, if South Korea does end up providing weapons for Ukraine directly, this will be a major foreign policy shift, especially considering the deteriorating ties with Russia, but also a lot of partnering countries are having nudged Seoul to do a little more when it comes to helping Ukraine out. And when it comes to the step-by-step thing, a very high-level official was briefing about this on Wednesday after the Emergency National Security Council meeting. At first, when the official was asked, they went into this whole idea of whether or not something is a lethal weapon. They said that it's an emotionally charged word because any weapons can be used for a certain intention. So they are going to go for, rather than lethal or not, they will use this term offensive or defensive weapon. And they said when it comes to step-by-step idea, it seems like they are trying to strategize this red line idea by saying that if Russia crosses this red line, we might consider providing defensive weapons, for instance. And then if you cross further, then we will move on to offensive weapon. That's what I felt when I was reading between the line a little bit. And at the same time, this was not the same official, but anonymized official also told various local media, I couldn't really track this down, to send monitoring team, South Korean monitoring team to Ukraine, including the military personnel. What was this about?
Yeah, so they're sending a monitoring team to Ukraine, as you mentioned, which potentially includes military personnel to study the combat tactics of the North Korean troops and also the how North Korean troops are being deployed within units in the Russian army.
Which would be very necessary for South Korea to track.
Absolutely. I mean, we're technically still at war with North Korea. We still have quite a grave security situation on the peninsula, so it will be very beneficial for us to learn about the weapons technologies and also the troops that are serving, and also, potentially if there are North Korean POWs, then
prisoner of wars.
Yeah, then South Korean military personnel can help out in interrogating them,
potentially
monitoring
nudging them to defect to South Korea.
Absolutely, yeah.
We saw kind of similar this playbook during the Vietnam War, but from North Korea against South Koreans. And if you want to read more about that, Ben Engel just published a very interesting historical parallel analysis on KoreaPro.org. And when it comes to potential weapons that might be under consideration by South Korea to provide to Ukraine, either directly or again through indirect, export route to Kiev's allies. They haven't went into specifics, but experts told us that the defensive ones could include surface-to-air guided missiles, and offensive ones, of course, could include tanks and howitzers, and the more artillery, basically, and stronger artillery. And this is unlikely, but if Russia crosses super duper red line, South Korea may also consider ground-to-ground missiles, which is like a crown jewel of South Korean defense industry right now. But it also comes with various models and, newer generation, older generation, and with different types of warheads that are possible. So we will have to keep an eye on that.
So what's the kind of legal framework? I heard that there was this act that kind of the South Korean government needs to follow in order to send these weapons to Ukraine if they do make the decision to do so.
Right. So it's a technical issue, sort of, because we hear about this. Usually readers see stuff about this on headlines related to like National Assembly, like lawmakers saying that it's illegal, they say, is to send lethal weapons to conflict zone. That's technically not that correct because it depends on the interpretation of the law, basically. The Foreign Trade Act, it does have restrictions like strategic assets, which includes weapons. It's only allowed for export for peaceful purposes, and it should not impact international peace and national security. But if you look at the law closely, who approves this? It's the minister, industries minister, or any relevant heads of agencies like DAPA. And this is under the executive branch. So technically, if you interpret the law differently, like we are providing this in order to keep the peace of the world by helping Ukraine and stop this unprovoked war, blah, blah, blah. It's technically possible to bypass that, but it will come with big political risk for you because DP is going against that and will try to interpret the other way around, saying that you broke the law, basically.
And also just public opinion polls,
Exactly, yeah.
So, he has consistent opposition right now to lethal aid to Ukraine among the public. He has a low approval rating, which reached record lows in the recent weeks, 24%, my memory serves. And, the DP could be holding or preparing a legal challenge for them.
Which they are. They are drafting bills to update the law, amend the law so that the National Assembly has like clearer authority in approving these exports. And lastly, on this topic, implementation, it remains very unclear, right, when it comes to when or what kind South Korea will be sending. Meanwhile, another defense and security related topic, drones. South Korea have they already started deploying new drones at the border?
No. So South Korean military, they've planned to deploy domestically produced suicide drones by the end of the year, in addition to purchasing the Polish-made drones that they announced at the start of October.
Right. This is confirmed now, right?
Yes. Yeah. So the Seoul's defense ministry is undergoing testing and contract procedures for deployment to the frontline brigades. And the initial deployment is expected to involve several dozen domestic drones, and a future expansion is planned for a deployment scale which will increase through actual military action and also training, performance improvements, etc. So the ministry is pursuing quite a few ways to strengthen drone capabilities, including domestic and international procurement, as we've seen with Poland. And they were co-developed by the Agency for Defense Development, ADD, and Korean Air, and they are equipped with image sensors. And just on the sidelines as well, starting today, I think it's already started at the time of recording, but Joon and his Polish counterpart is expected to meet today and announce the details of their summit meeting. Could you tell us a little bit more about his visit?
I'm seeing some alerts about the summit result right now, but I think a more important aspect is before he departs from Seoul, he will be visiting defense sector sites reportedly on Friday. Hanwha Aerospace and Hyundai Rotem's Gyeongnam manufacturing sites. These are the companies that produce and export K9 self-propelled howitzers and also K2 tanks, which have been very, very popular among clients in recent years. Although South Korean media have been expecting a potential signing of the second round of the exports of the K2 tank specifically in coming months, it doesn't seem like this is going to happen this week, but they will be discussing for signing in the future.
Korea Pro, your gateway to expert South Korea intelligence. Korea Pro helps you stay on top of the most important issue of the day with a daily executive briefing every morning and a curated overview of Korean and international headlines. Get access to our analysts' comprehensive insights on South Korea's economy, politics, security and society. Keep track of upcoming events and developments with our Monday Week Ahead newsletter. If you need an overview of the week that was, stay updated with our weekly podcast. Korea Pro transforms complex information into actionable business intelligence for companies, policymakers and researchers covering the South Korea portfolio. Visit koreapro.org/podcast and never be sidelined again.
And week ahead, the audit at the National Assembly has been ongoing for 2 weeks, I believe, and it will end on Monday. Friday one and the Monday one will be the comprehensive one that sort of closes up the audit that has been going on. But afterward, next week, the committees will likely, especially the budget committee, will be focusing more on the 2025 budget review.
Right. And also the next week we'll also see the second year anniversary of the Itaewon disaster. And over this weekend on the 26th, you'll see a memorial rally in central Seoul where opposition party politicians will be expected to attend.
I remember a year ago, it was a whole controversy because PPP did not attend that officially. Some lawmakers went at personal capacity, but they didn't. And then the presidential office gave this weird remark about how it's a politicized event, so the president or presidential officials won't be attending. Is this probably the same thing?
We'll probably see the same thing recurring again. Opposition party politicians are looking to fill up the seats at the front, so we probably will have to wait and see.
Right, but if the ruling party leader Han Dong-un attends even at personal capacity, that will be probably a very big move because there has been some ongoing rifts between Yoon and the presidential office between Han.
And also intra-party.
Right, intra-party, because they're like pro-Han and pro-Yoon sort of factions right now, and they have been disagreeing with each other, especially regarding what to do with the first lady sort of deal.
Sure.
A lot. So if Han makes a move to attend this with the oppositional party leaders, alongside him also arguing that there requires more investigation about the Marine's death issue, which I think he's maintaining.
Yes.
This might, if he does that, it will be a very big signal to the other people in the ruling People Power Party. And lastly, electricity fee are going up starting today, but only for large industrial users mostly. For small industrial users, it's going up but modest. And for things like restaurant owners or just domestic use, it's frozen again. So it's 9.7% average increase for the industry and households. They're frozen, while the large industrial users, they face more than 10% increase versus for small and medium size businesses, it's 5.2% hike. And this kind of comes after years of KEPCO, South Korea's state power utility, struggling with a massive debt, and they are losing so much, even on daily basis, due to the interest payments alone. And also, it seems the biggest impact will not be for small and medium sized enterprises though, but mostly semiconductor giants and steel companies. And experts also saying that although these chaebols industry giants are sort of taking on the responsibility to resolve this issue while the household fee remain frozen, it's still not enough to really fix KEPCO's long-term finances, and they're still calling for broader increases across all sectors next time, including households. And I've heard that before, exactly a year ago. So it seems like the South Korean Industries Ministry and KEPCO is stuck in a very difficult situation in the coming year as well. And for more information, check out koreapro.org and subscribe for daily executive briefings in the morning and all the important upcoming schedules categorized by relevant sector every Monday afternoon. And this was Jeongmin Kim
and Joon Ha Park.
And that's a wrap. Thanks for tuning in.
If you want to know more, sign up for our daily executive briefings. We brief you on all you need to know from the past 24 hours and why they matter every morning in your inboxes.
Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast for your weekly dose of insight. And until next time, I'm Jeongmin Kim.
And I'm John Lay. Stay connected, stay informed, and we'll see you next time on the Great Pro Podcast.